Just a note for APAC geopolitics, US President Trump and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung are set to meet on the 25th of August in Washington, according to the White House.
Good morning, good afternoon. Carolyn, welcome. Konstantinos, Adair, Ryan, good to see you folks. Well, got a bit of movement now, CPI out, so that's boding well for this session. Maybe try and shake off some of this summer malaise. Okay, hope everyone's doing well. Hey, Carolyn, hope you're doing well. Ryan, got a couple of nice positions out of that CPI, so that was, I've had a good start to the session so far. My other accounts, not this one that I've got live, but it's on two of the accounts, which is nice. Okay, folks, just as we're waiting for folks to come in, let's just start having a look around, see what we've got. Oh, nice, Carolyn. CPI's been, we'll have a look at the interpretation of the CPI. We'll just be led by order flow, but yeah, nice. That was nice, short the DAX. I pulled my euro dollar longs to break even, and I got stopped out of break even with the CPI. So I was out of break even on that euro dollar long, and I'm maintaining silver longs. All right, folks, let's get into it. So this CPI print we've just had is always going to be important because we had the weak jobs data and investors started to price in 2 interest rate cuts coming from the Fed, particularly an interest rate cut coming from the Fed in September's meeting. Look at the pricing post CPI, no change. So investors are still seeing those 2 interest rate cuts coming this year. And we saw an immediate reaction, dollar down, equity stocks up. So that should be supportive for sentiment. Now, the next major event is really the PPI that we have on Thursday. And then we've got Trump and Putin meeting on Friday. So that's the next 2 major things. And let's see how the market reacts to this. The initial reaction is pretty benign. Although CPI has ticked up, the core up to 3.1 from 2.9, right? Headline, okay, not as high as expected. But the month-on-month 0.3% up from the prior of 0.2%. So there is a bit of inflation pressure from tariffs coming through, but the immediate reaction was just relief. You know, look at the way that markets have just responded to that. Like, phew, you know, that's not terrible. Buy equity markets. Now we'll have to see if that continues as we head into the session. Now we've got 5-minute close we've just had here. Sellers underneath this level, but still holding. So we're now in this value area, kind of high area. That'd be interesting to see if we get up above that area, then we could look for fresh longs to go there, maybe on the 5-minute, but we'll see. It looks like it wants to pull back a bit further. We'll get to that analysis later. Looking at the other currency moves, we had UK jobs data out, which has just shown that it's a bit more complicated for the Bank of England, and that has put pressure on the pound. There's a lot of uncertainty about this data out of the UK though, particularly with the Office for National Statistics and the revisions to the methodology they're using for jobs. So I'm reading a lot of confusion about whether this is, you know, a real sort of difficult slowdown or, you know, I think it's fantastic for the UK labour market. The general sort of consensus is it's still too early to tell. So the pound's enjoying some upside on the jobs print, and the dollar's some downside on the CPI. So pound dollar upside does make sense for intraday trading. And if you look here on the, let me try and get that on balance volume moving. Just put in another on balance volume. You can see that price is trying to break out of this flag pattern. Let's just see. There we go. Okay. And we're getting potential breakout of this large channel.
According to Sky News Arabia, Iraq Ministry of Oil is studying the possibility of exporting oil via Lebanon port of Tripoli. That's going to Sky.
So pound dollar upside does make sense. It's not a trade I'm taking
from other news agencies,
but nevertheless that does make sense today.
The Iraq Oil Ministry will be studying renewal of the Iraq-Syria oil export pipeline. Will form a joint committee to assess the situation.
Silver just benefiting from that weakness in the dollar, okay, and the CPI being a little bit benign is just helpful for silver. You can see here you had a breakdown of that inside bar, pullback, retest. So that's an obvious area for intraday sellers. We really need to get back above that high for the near-term bull picture to be maintained. For now, we'll have to see what the session brings us. And it'll be interesting to see how markets respond to this latest CPI print, which is still showing inflation higher and picking up on quite a quick pace. So We could have just seen a bit of relief that it wasn't a terrible reading, but now we need to wait and see how the market really reacts going forward. So we'll see what the session brings. Aside from that, we've got Barkin speaking at 3, and we've got Mirren speaking at 3, and we've got Schmidt speaking at 3:30. So we have got quite a lot of Fed speak coming out around 3:30. CPI is hotter, but the initial reaction is lower. Looking at the hourly chart.
And just a bit of context provided from the WSJ Fed watcher, Tim Moraes. He does suggest that the bar for a rate cut changed after the July payrolls report. A September rate cut could have been derailed by a hot CPI print today. The July CPI wasn't a, quote, no inflation reading, but it likely wasn't a hot enough report to stop a September cut.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of context there from the WSJ's Fed watcher.
So that's kind of what makes sense. Tim Rails, Wall Street, Fed watcher, is sort of saying, okay, yeah, makes sense. There's relief that it wasn't going to stop a Fed rate cut. So you've got the fact that a Fed rate cut is coming, so it's just been bought. But whether that carries on or not, we'll have to see. On the hourly chart, buyers pushed up all above these sellers here. Point of control sits down here at the 6413. So looking for dip buyers around here does make sense. So that's what I'm looking for. On the 15, you can see we've broken up above these sellers here, right? And we're now got those trap sellers, and now we're heading into this value area here, right? So what are we looking for? Do we start to see some dip buyers come in? Now you're looking at the 5-minute. You've got some buyers potentially getting trapped here. Let's see, got a few minutes. Sellers trapping those breakout buyers, but only into that value area. So that's not a bad area. It's top of yesterday's value area high for buyers to come in. So I'm just having a little look at that. And if I get something decent there on the tick chart, that's definitely worth considering. Now, I'll just show you. Right, now it's not a bad little area, right? And you've got sellers trapped there. The delta on balance volume is still moving lower. So really...
Update on geopolitics. According to Al Jazeera, they report Israel claims to have intercepted a drone launched from Yemen.
See, that wouldn't be unusual to expect to see buyers here. On balance volume is sort of starting to try to tick up. So what I'd like to see here, maybe just like maybe a little pullback, see some sellers get trapped and then go long. So let's see what we get, because we're in this area here, right, where we got some sellers trapped. We pushed above this value area, right? We're trying to find support in another value area. In the 5, you've got sellers trapped there. That's the only problem. And you've got a value area quite close up there. So maybe if you get a bit of a drop down, or you see on balance volume is really trending lower still. And you've got these buyers come in, but you got sellers who are going to try and come in now and force the issue. Let's see. So if those sellers get trapped, then we could have another run up higher. So let's have a look at that. Here we go. On balance volume has broken that trend line. Quite a lot of selling come in. I'm going to probably wait for something a bit better, but interesting spot. So just keep that on the back on the radar. So you can see on the hourly chart, cumulative delta is positive from the Globex Open. We got buyers trapping these sellers down here, all right? And we got buyers pushing up above these sellers. So it's an obvious area for buyers to come in. Got 5-minute, you got potential sellers here who try to force the issue, but everything's up. So let's see, get up above those sellers there. If we can get above those sellers, then that would look like it wants to go higher. So let's see.
Commentary from Pantheon Macroeconomics says it provisionally estimates that today's CPI data are consistent with a 0.23% increase in the core PCE deflator. An update from Iran's first VP says if conditions are met, even direct negotiations with the US can be held with dignity. Says demand for zero enrichment is a joke.
Sellers still coming in here. They're still forcing the issue. The other thing to look for is just look this on balance volume. Okay, we want that really coordinating with buyers or sellers getting trapped. So at the moment on the 50, you got these sellers trapped here as price broke. Pull back to the area. Ideally would be a nice move down. If you've got a nice move down to that VWAP, that would be nicer. right? And you've also got these sort of sellers down here as well. Do you see? So probably with this space being limited to the upside, probably want to move down to there. And if we get that, see what you've got now, you've got sellers at the 15-minute close, now trapping those buyers. So that's a bit of a mixed signal for me. So I need to see a deeper pullback now. You know, ideal would be all the way down to this sort of level here, but the VWAP would be acceptable. So as sellers getting, if I get some folks getting trapped down here at the 5-minute, ideally on that VWAP, that would be the best. Okay. And then looking for the on-balance volume to start moving in the direction. So at the moment, on-balance volume is moving lower, and now it's sort of flat. And really, we want to see it moving. We want to move it higher. Now, earlier, just take a look at this, folks. When we had the CPI print, so we're up and up, right? And then that was my first long here when buyers here trap sellers against this second standard deviation. So we're up above the second standard deviation, right? Sellers getting trapped, so long. And then I took another position here where buyers trapped sellers there. So buyers trapped sellers again above the second standard deviation and just took it long, just up into these highs. Actually, my second position was here, was buyers trapping those sellers. And I just entered along there and I just exited on that large volume candle here. So we've got a 15-minute close.
Attention to the fixed income space. You're seeing quite a bit of a turnaround
Sellers
in
trapped
US Treasury
buyers.
and broader fixed income markets since the release of that US inflation report. So at the time, it was very much a case of seeing being good enough with the upside as a potential surprise being eliminated that some have been positioning for heading into the release. However, though, as we have tried to emphasize, digging a little bit deeper beyond the headline, that core goods inflation of 1.2% year over year is definitely something worth warranting for. And given that we still have one more CPI report due for next month's September Fed rate decision, it's worth noting that the tariff effect has not gone away, and we have noticed signs of it increasing. So very much not out of the woods on that front, and it does appear the market is responding accordingly. Obviously, things are relatively thin out there as it is August, which may be exacerbating some of the price action. But again, just worth acknowledging the turnarounds we have seen in the fixed income space.
So there's 15. Here's the 5. On balance volume trying to pick up now. Okay. Right, let's have a look. So what I'm seeing now is I am seeing sellers pulling back and trapping those breakout buyers to the upside. And I'm seeing these sellers here have trapped buyers here and here. So in the very near term, sellers have just got the edge on it. So what I want to see here is if I can see buyers push above these sellers on the 5, that will give me the strength to go long again. Otherwise, I'm just going to wait because we may get a deeper pullback here ahead of the US Open. You can see market is clearly, right, trying to open up imbalanced. We're above the balance from earlier the European session, but from yesterday, we pushed above yesterday's balance area, but now we're coming back into balance. So you've got to look at that and you've got to say, is this a convincing break above this high? No. So it looks like we want to head back down to this value area high of the European session and the overnight Asia session. So let's see. But you see how we're opening up inside of yesterday's balance area? So market tried to go imbalanced, and that's a false break. I think we just have to say that. All right, morning, Nadia. All right then, folks. So here we are, 15. Those sellers trapped those buyers. Now notice we're opening up inside, right, Monday's value area. So we've gone from imbalanced, right, back to balance. Now, looking at the 5 minutes will be interesting. If we get buyers trapping those sellers, then it's looking for longs at the open, but being careful of that value area, because we could easily see a rejection on a retest of this area up here of that 6427. So that's what we're just going to watch for sellers coming in at the standard deviation or just before. So there's the 15, 5 minute. We've got 26 seconds. Those sellers trap those buyers. We've moved down, down, down. On balance volume still moving lower. Now the question is, can we get up above those sellers in 9 seconds? If we can, then it's looking for potential longs. And if we get sellers trapped. So we're above, now we have to wait for some sellers to get trapped. Okay, they're trapped now. Got a quick long in. Right, just taking it out. The danger is it returns from here. So just taking a quick long. We're back into that value area, now we'll go to wait. There wasn't a whole lot there, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. On balance volume is still moving low. If you look at the on balance volume, you see the problem. Point of control's up there, we've moved into it, and now we're seeing a bit of a sell-off. That was the danger. So 5-minute buyers trapping sellers, deeper retracement, we could look for another long, but let's see. You can see on the 15. So buyers, trapping sellers, we've had a little move up.
And for those interested, with Fed board nominee Stephen Myron, he is appearing on CNBC at the top of the hour in around 30 minutes. We have posted a primer on the News School headline feed, so please feel free to check it out.
Okay, buyers have trapped sellers there. On balance volume, at the point of control, still moving lower. You see it's moving lower, and now we're trapping those opening buyers. So the opening buyers now trapped. Okay, so you could see a little bit of a retracement from here. If we get a bounce off that VWAP, that wouldn't be unreasonable. Got 3 minutes to that close. 15-minute. Got sellers down there. So 5-minute buyers trap sellers. So you could see a push above here. So some buyers trying to come in. Okay. Okay, so there they are, trying to come in here against those sellers. Can they trap them? No. Can they trap them here? Yes, so that's a potential buy. I'm going to leave it because it's not convincing enough for me, but that was a potential buy there with those buyers trapping the sellers. On balance volume is moving sideways, so just going to wait for something better. And you see we haven't really got anywhere to go, so just okay, 5 minutes. Okay, still flat, flat, flat. Thing is, we're just going into that value area high from yesterday as well. So we've gone from imbalance, right, back into a balance. So just got to wait. Right, maybe now we get the test of the 32.7. So that's where you might see a retracement right here, because that's where those 15-minute buyers were trapped, right? So 15-minute buyers were trapped by sellers there. So this is a potential target reversal area. Okay, that's great. Buyers. Okay, there we go. So buyers, are they trapping those sellers? Well, on balance volume now moving higher. Yep, nice Nadja, makes sense. So that's 15 trapping those. So they're trapped now. So I'm looking for a pullback here to go long. So pull back to here to go long. And you can see on balance volume is now pushing higher. All right. So 5, trapping those sellers. Gone into the highs. 15, trying to trap those sellers here and here. So I'm looking for a pullback down here, and then looking for opportunities to go long against that standard deviation. That will be my trade. Yeah, so that's going to be the play. Right, I can have a little long there. It's probably a bit high up, but I want to give it it's probably a bit high up actually. Okay, have another quick long. Okay, it's all tracking higher. All right, I was going to take that off up at the highs in case it... Yeah, nice one. Well done, Ryan. Right, now I'm just going to see if we can break above here on the next 5 minute and then reconsider another long. All right, just because we're seeing 15 coming to break those sellers, which is great. And you got these sellers getting trapped. See if those sellers get trapped on the 5 up here. That would be interesting.